Good afternoon, everyone. Hope that you guys have had a good weekend and are ready to tackle our second week of virtual education. What you see before you is our starter activity to begin week two, or if you're keeping track by weeks of the semester, this is going to be week 12. Last week we concluded as we talked about Charlemagne and his passing the torch off to his son Louis the Pious. We said that he was a weak ruler, at least in the perspective or vantage point of those citizens living in the Frankish kingdom. I'd like you to tell me why he was seen as a weak ruler. And we also talked about three groups that were going to rebel or fight back against him. Who were they? Go ahead and take a minute now and open up your new starter activity page and go ahead and answer that question. Well, like I promised you last week, we're going to go ahead and get started with one of my favorite groups. And I realize that it might not be great to herald a group like the Vikings for their marauding and murderous ways as a group that I love talking about. But like I said, I, being 35 or so percent Norwegian, love talking about the Vikings. There's a unique little connection there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today and are able to get a lot out of it. We're going to go ahead and start talking about the Vikings kind of as a subgroup as we talk about those other marauding tribes that we're going to come in. The Vikings are going to be the main ones that we're going to focus on. As we look at the different groups that are coming in, especially those being the Vikings, they're going to have the longest invasion time window of any that were mentioned last week. And as we think about why they decided to come to Europe, I want to suggest a few different reasons of why they were forced away from their homeland to now consider or come to Europe. The first one is going to be overpopulation. Within the area of Scandinavia, where the Vikings are going to come from, there simply is going to be too many people for too small of a piece of land, and that's going to push them to come to Europe. The other one is, or another one is going to be poor farming conditions. If you ever get to go to Scandinavia, and I hope that many of you at some point in your life, as you begin to travel and see the rest of the world, are able to get to Scandinavia, it is spectacular. You're going to see that at certain points, the conditions that you're finding are almost exclusively rocky and very, very difficult to be able to farm in. And so when you think about much of their livelihood being made from farming, now these individuals are going to be forced to find somewhere else to do what they know, which is going to be farming. Another reason that a lot of these Vikings are going to come to Europe is they begin to see the monasteries that are speckled across or spotted across Europe as very easy ways to make money. We're going to see a video clip within today's overall lesson that's going to show these monks there, and what they have at their defense is going to be minimal. So as the Vikings come in, these guys that were ready to fight, ready to attack, the monks had no chance. And so as a result of that, these monasteries where there was a lot of gold, a lot of money that was coming in, they were going to be easy targets for the Vikings to make a lot of money very quickly. Another reason that you're going to find is going to be something called primogeniture. We talked about these four different sons last week all getting a piece of the pie. Well, in this case, only the oldest is going to get the land. And I should clarify, only the oldest son. You guys know kind of where you fall in the birth order and even in terms of gender. I'd be interested to see how many of you are oldest sons. And if you are the oldest son, you would have received the land. If you are not the oldest son, you're either going to be at this point under your brother's care to now be able to offer you a piece of that land, or you're going to have to find another piece out there of your own. And so, for a lot of these younger men who weren't going to be the ones receiving their family plot, they now would have to go to Europe to see if they could get a little bit more land. The last reason is going to be just their pure enjoyment of fighting and sailing. There was something in them, a passion that said, I want to now go out and have adventure. I want to be able to see what's out there. There is this almost maniacal sense of enjoyment of fighting where they were going to have this almost out of body experience where they said, I want to go fight, I want to go sail, I want to be able to now conquer in a way that's going to bring me honor. And these factors are going to drive these individuals to Europe. Well, as they now are going to get here, you're going to see, and by here I mean Europe, A lot of them are going to come in longboats. That'll be another part of the video clip. But as they came, towns and castles and churches across Europe were going to become the targets of these horrific attacks, Vikings swooping in and attacking seemingly out of nowhere. And for a lot of the Europeans, they began to have a profound fear of those that would be coming from the north. Well, specifically from Sweden, but different groups across the area known as Scandinavia began descending not only into Europe, but then going even to the east. Sweden, being a little bit further east, is going to now have a connection with Russia. As you look at these people, there's going to now be an extended network of trade that it's going to be connecting to this piece of land. Those coming from Scandinavia are going to be able to extend and see their connections grow with those in Russia. Finally, you're going to see them coming to Constantinople. Now, this is before the fall, which we talked about last unit in 1453, but many of them are going to get to Constantinople. And as the video is going to tell you, the Byzantine emperor is so incredibly overwhelmed and impressed by how the Vikings fight. He says, we're willing to pay you, essentially as mercenaries, to stay and be our bodyguard here, the elite soldiers within our military. The Vikings were second to none when it came to fighting. I want to talk about where some of these settlements are going to be, and then we'll wrap up this first bit. The first area that they're going to go is in northern Africa. It's a pretty significant extension, especially when you think about coming from Scandinavia. This is not close, but they're brave, they're heroic to be able to leave their land and be able to come to North Africa. But there's going to be a few other ones that I'd like to zero in on a little bit more. The first being Iceland. As they leave Scandinavia, they're going to sail west and be able to come upon this island known as Iceland. Now, apparently, and you're going to see some of the footage, which is spectacular from Iceland, the first winter there was particularly difficult, and so that earned its name of Iceland. But it isn't that the island is covered in ice. There is some pretty fertile ground for farming, some land that's going to be fairly hospitable, and because of that, there's going to be a growing number of Vikings within Iceland. However, one of them was going to have a difficult time, a guy by the name of Eric the Red. Eric the Red was a Viking who, along with his wife and family, had settled in Iceland and were there. And as according to legend, he got a little bit angry and ends up killing a guy. And because of that, is banished from the island. Basically told, you can go wherever you want, you can live wherever you want, but you can't stay here anymore because of your crime. You have to leave. And so he took off, settled a new area with his family, which is going to be today Greenland. Now, if you were to go to Greenland, the area there is going to be very different. It's almost like these names have gotten flipped on their head. You're going to see Eric the Red and his family settling in Greenland, and is going to name it as such to now be an attractor for those living in Iceland. However, if you were to go to Greenland, the land and the overall atmosphere there is going to be much more frigid, much colder, even icier than what's going to be in Iceland. But as a marketing ploy, as almost propaganda, he puts it out there to those living in Iceland. We have area here that's even better than what you're living on, so come on and join us. Well, Eric the Red's son is going to now be a guy named Leif Erikson. And Leif Erikson is going to hear these rumors of a land even further west, actually more southwest, told by a guy named Bjarni Herjolfsson. We estimate that Bjarni had sailed along what is today the Labrador coast, that's up near Canada and Nova Scotia, had sailed down there around 986 and had come back and told Eric the Red and his family, hey, this is there. Well, little Leif is going to hear that and say, one day I'm going to get on a boat and I'm going to go down to this new land. And roughly at 1000 AD, so again, you imagine almost 500 years before Columbus sails the ocean blue in 1492, Leif Erikson and a group of Vikings essentially get onto a boat and they sail to what is today North America. They have an area there that's going to be known as Vinland. It's in Newfoundland, again up in that northern part of Canada, and you're going to see these individuals settling there in a place that will be the first settlement in North America. So even though your teachers told you Columbus was the first one to discover North America. Hopefully this hasn't happened too often, but they were misguided. They did not tell you the truth. It was, and I'm proud to say, a Viking, a guy by the name of Leif Erikson in roughly 1000 or so AD. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this first little bit as we've talked about the Vikings. There's going to be a video clip connected with the second part, and we'll see you then.